Carla,
Hi.
wow, we're in a whole world of situation here.
Truman Show. Yeah. It's not boring right now, that's for sure. It's a little too exciting these days, if anything.
The Truman Show. Wow, that I haven't seen that movie in so long, and wow, you like nailed it with that. It's so weird. It's like every time you think of something new, they're one step ahead of you
Yeah.
everywhere around the corner. If you haven't
Well,
seen
and
that, it's with Jim Carrey, and he's living in a make believe world. He's on a reality TV show. This is what it feels like. It feels
yeah.
crazy.
Especially if you go out into the world and you go interact with people that, aren't as informed, I'll say. It really feels like you're living in a simulation because you're living in two different realities right now.
Well, it feels like everybody around is like the non-player characters that are just have a script tree.
NPC.
Yeah. They have a script tree, and you're like, "Hi, how are you? Trump is terrible." And you're like, "Whoa, hold on, I didn't even go there."
Yeah.
Oh, that's just their script tree. That's that's the only thing they know. And
Is that a
voting,
Tesla?
yeah. So it's crazy. It really is crazy. And I want to get into this because it really comes down to propaganda. We live in
Mhm.
a complete age of propaganda, and free speech is right on the cusp. We're on the cusp of losing it. Like indefinite. And once it's gone, like what are they? Our overlords? Or they just no, we just need a pause. We just need a hiatus on free speech. We'll bring it back later. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
happen. That's never happened throughout history. You fight for your rights, and when you lose them, they're gone forever until you battle for them, like actually battle for them.
Mhm.
So how close are we to losing it all?
So close. I mean, free speech is the most important right because when you lose that, you lose your ability to fight for every single other right. And like this is the hill that I die on. And we have Carney bringing back that horrific Bill C-63, which is not just about censorship. We're talking about pre-crime and thought crimes and these really Orwellian 1984 style bills. And it makes me want to just walk around and just like shake people. Like, how can you possibly think that this is okay? My husband just got back from a week away in Mexico, and he never really pays attention to politics. He just allows me to fill him in. So he just got back today, and he's like, "So what's new?" And I was like, "Well, probably going to prison. We have this new bill, and under this bill, all the work that I do is actually very, very dangerous right now." I am not being dramatic. We also just saw, someone got debanked today.
Yes.
Megan Murphy just got
Megan
debanked.
Murphy did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she this is amazing. It's incredible. I've had Megan on the show. She's a lovely lady.
Mm.
She's fantastic. She's been outspoken on the gender issue. She's
Yes.
known as a TERF. This is the
Yes.
nickname that they've given. What is it? Trans exclusionary radical feminist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny terms, right?
She's a
I mean,
lefty. She was a lefty. She was a feminist, and until all the trans stuff blew up, and she started speaking out against that. And I actually don't know why her bank accounts got frozen
well,
because
did
she's
you know
been talking.
she was running for office?
That's what I'm wondering. Is it because she's in this oppositional PPC party, or because she's been talking about the trans thing for years now? It can't just be that. Is it because she was running for the PPC?
Yeah, I see. I don't. So first of all, I don't see the PPC like winning any seats. Let's just
No.
be honest about
No.
that. So like, it's not like she was a big threat to democracy, right? She wasn't. She would no, and like
No.
she would just be allowed to run, and obviously anyone who's a citizen should have the right to run for office. Now she
Yeah.
was living in Mexico because she was afraid. She was afraid for her life. And like, let's just be honest. So what she had done in the past, she put up a billboard. Was it her? No, I'm thinking of someone else that put the billboard up. That was somebody else. I'm thinking of somebody else. Do you remember that case where it was a billboard of I love the writer from J.K. Rowling's.
Okay, was it Billboard Chris?
No.
Okay, someone here.
And I'm totally drawing a blank on this one now. I know it was somebody else. I'm confusing that. But that person had a lot coming at them for doing that. But Megan Murphy, she's been very vocal on the same issue. So it's been the same issue. It's women's rights, women only spaces, and not letting up on that. Now that's become kind of a hot button issue for people on the left, because there are a lot of feminists on the left that are realistic people. Like, let's just be honest. Like, feminism doesn't have to be craziness. You're not crazy pants. A lot of feminists, like people who identify as feminists, are people who are just concerned about women's issues. That's about it. When all the craziness comes out, then they're like, what? I'm not that. Like, no, get me away from that. And so she came out in favor of saying, no, forget this stuff with the men dressed as women coming into women's restrooms and all of this stuff. So she
mansplaining what a woman is.
right.
Get out of here.
Mansplaining. I never thought I'd hear that in a sentence where I'm like, all right, I'll give you that. That's crazy. So she's run for office. She's running for office. I mean, everyone has the right to do this. The PPC picked her up and was like, yeah, you can be our candidate. She's running for this. And then she's about to leave Mexico to come back to Canada to do this campaign with 2 weeks left in the election. And her bank's frozen. She calls up the bank and she says, what's going on? What's happened to my bank account? Why can't I access my funds? I have money. And they said, oh, it's out of our reach. The government came and told us to do it. And here's a phone number. You can call them. So she called them. Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. So she called them, gets the runaround. Oh, I don't know who that is. I don't know what department you're supposed to be listening to or talking to. Goes through all of this stuff. Finally finds the person that was in charge of this whole thing. Gets the answering machine. Hi, sorry, I'm on vacation. I just left for vacation for 2 weeks. I'll be back on this date. You can contact me then. That's it.
That's what's so creepy about all the like automated tellers and these automated systems. Like we're all gonna end up in this position one day where you can't even talk to a person. But this is giving me like COVID 2.0 vibes all over again.
Big time.
You know,
Big time.
I worked for a documentary team that went out to the convoy, and when bank accounts started getting frozen, there was a lot of people with the team that were at risk, and I was kind of just at home, like waiting. Are my assets going to be frozen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so this was the thought at the time, because there were, what was it? Give Send Go from the Freedom Convoy. The Give Send Go got hacked. And the hacker let out all these people's personal information, let it all out there. And then the government was using that information. They were using hacked information. That stuff's inadmissible in a court of law. But they were using it to go after political dissidents in this country. That's insane. And people, it seemed seemingly at random, were selected to have their bank accounts frozen. Now, mind you, there's an op-ed from Mark Carney from that time where he was the one advocating for this stuff. So like the architect behind all of this stuff is the guy who's sitting prime minister unelected right now and looks like he might win. Like, that's nuts.
He was definitely the one that was pushing for the Emergencies Act the first time. And a lot of people think I'm lying when I say this. A lot of people on the left, I should say, when he was campaigning, he said one of the first things that he would do is evoke the Emergencies Act to give himself more power. It
Did
feels
he
like I'm
say that?
underwater. He did. I think it was in Kelowna, don't quote me, but he said it. What was I listening to? The latest Juno News, and they played that clip again, and I was like, "Hey, yes, I'm not crazy. This is
No
what he
way.
said." So because of Trump and the tariffs, he needs emergency powers. I'm afraid of that man. I think Trudeau took his sweet time slowly dismantling Canada over the last 10 years. You know, he's been doing it since the Pierre Elliott Trudeau days. There's been this like degrowth agenda, and it's been slow. It's been the boiling frog. But you know how Carney's moving, or sorry, you know how Trump is moving fast? Like he's just ripping the carpet underneath and he's just totally dismantling and changing things, like it or not. He's moving fast. I think
Mhm.
Carney's going to move fast too. And when he said that, I'm going to evoke a War Times Emergency Act. He didn't say to give himself more powers, but he didn't actually give a reason
But
for
that's
why he's going to give
what
himself
else?
this thing.
Why else would you need that?
That's what it was created for war, for emergencies, not a peaceful Canadian bonfire protest, or a financial emergency. Sorry.
Yeah, I suppose a financial emergency, but like, so we had a financial emergency back in '08. That was probably the bigger financial emergency we've had in a long time.
Mhm.
And Stephen Harper didn't need an Emergencies Act.
Yeah.
And even the prime minister has emergency powers that
Mhm.
were never invoked outside of the Emergencies Act, because the Emergencies Act is essentially suspending civil liberties across
That's right.
the country. It's martial law.
And where people are extremely short-sighted is they will cheer this stuff on because their side has the power. So people are cheering on CBC getting more funding than CSIS right now because their side has that power. So like, okay, great. I'm like, that's really short-sighted. And I make content about this all the time. If how would you feel? How would you feel if the Conservatives prorogued Parliament right now? How would you feel if they blocked your access to seeing the news on social media? How would you feel if the Conservatives funded 85% of legacy media? Would that feel good to you? If it wouldn't, then what are you doing supporting this? Because these are systems that get put in place for a very long time. So you're extremely short-sighted if you're going to cheer these kinds of things on. It doesn't matter what you thought of the trucker convoy. It doesn't matter what you think about, like, CBC. If this is not power that you wouldn't want in the hands of your enemy, then sit down. This is not okay. And this censorship bill, like, I'm a bit of a history buff. Well, I have been the last 5 years, like, what the heck is going on? So diving back into history, um, the writing's on the wall, what they're doing, and the good guys in history have never been the ones that were like, "Don't let anybody talk." And if they talk, freeze their bank accounts and throw them in jail. Never. Not
Burn
one.
books and stop them from being able to communicate. Yeah, yeah. No, we've heard all of that stuff. It's insane. So, I mean, holy cow, Canada's making some unprecedented moves, and the Freedom Convoy was one. I've been
Mhm.
saying for some time here that when the largesse of the power of the state becomes too big, like it becomes so big and becomes so powerful, it becomes intrusive into every aspect of your life, and then that's when people are then clamor, they vie for power. Everything becomes tribalism at that point, because you need your tribe to have the power, or else the other tribe is going to have the power and take away all your rights. And the argument is
Mhm.
the government shouldn't have that ability to take away anybody's rights. It should be, everyone's equal under the eyes of the law. Everyone has free speech. Everyone has freedom of expression, all of these things. But
Mhm.
this becomes a situation, especially since we're in an election cycle right now. Everybody's freaking out, whether you're on the left or you're on the right, and whether you're informed or you're misinformed. Each side is like, well, if the other guy gets in, he's going to take away all my rights. If you don't like turfs or whatever, if you're trans or whatever, they're brainwashed into thinking that people on the right are going to try to take away trans rights. What are trans rights? I don't know what specifically a trans right is, as opposed to a human right or just a person's inalienable rights.
See, but that's
none
the
of those are being
thing.
challenged.
It makes sense to fear the left because we're literally looking at the bills that they're creating in real time, as well as the last 10 years, saying, oh, the last 10 years led to horrible, horrific outcomes. I can't think of one tangible positive benefit from the last 10 years. But like I'm reading bills in the House. I'm looking at what they're actually doing, like the censorship bill, and it's horrific. I have real reasons to be terrified of this party, where I think the fear of the right is completely unjustified. It's just people's feelings, because I'll hear things like, well, they don't like homeless people and they'll take away women's rights and gay rights. I'm like, show me the policy. Show me the bill.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. This is nonsense in your head, where I'm actually looking at the policies of like, this is something to be scared about, where you you guys think you're fighting Nazis and Russian funded far right extremists, but you've never read a bill once. You don't even know like the basic party platform. If you did, you would know that the Conservative Party in Canada is nothing like the Republicans. They're very centrist. They're pretty much liberal. They're fighting for free speech. They're fighting for like the average Canadian, like your blue collar worker. They have really good plans for supporting people with like addictions and social support programs. They make it so that people can actually like afford the things that they need to afford. Um, if people actually understood what the parties actually stood for, they would feel different. And I get it, because I don't know, prior to 2020, I didn't know. I voted Liberal. I probably would have voted NDP. On voting day, I would go and pull up the platforms and pretend like I was doing my due diligence. And I was like, who should I vote for? But I had no idea.
Well,
But
it's crazy now because it's all Orwellian. They're telling you things that just, I mean, they're not true on the face. You
yeah,
know, Mark Carney wrote a book all about ESG, all about net zero, and his life's work is in high taxation, central authority, censorship. He praises Karl Marx throughout the book. I think Karl Marx
Lenin.
is mentioned. Yeah, Lenin. I mean, like what? Like crazy, right? We live in this world. And
Yeah.
and then he gets up in front of the Canadian public as prime minister and he says, "Oh no, I'm going to cut the taxes. I'm going to decentralize." I don't know what he's saying. He's saying all this stuff that's like absolutely not what his life work is all about. Either
Yeah.
he's lied his whole life to get to the position that he's at, and now it's the crescendo, and he's now become the
Uh-huh.
prime minister, and the truth is coming out, or everything that he's saying right now is BS, and he has an agenda, and it's authoritarian.
It is. Did you ever learn about communism in school? The dangers of communism? Did you learn about Mao
No.
and Stalin? Me neither. And I find that so strange, because you always hear about the far right and you never hear about the far left, and how many millions of people died under these regimes. Last year, Dan and I went to the Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg. I was like, I got to check this place out.
I didn't know that existed.
It's a pretty cool looking building, and it's basically talking about all the atrocities in history. And it's a Truman Show experience, because you're going to walk in there and they'll talk about residential schools, they'll talk about the Holocaust, but in almost every single display, it's like there was civil unrest and there were these bad things happening, and in came the unions and the government to save the day in almost every
What?
single display. And they'll talk about genocides and these things in history, and there's nothing about Mao. I think there's like one little like tiny little wall plaque about
This
Stalin.
Chinese guy had great ideas and it just didn't work out. So move on. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest. Actually, a lot of what Mao did is what people are modeling now. Like what you
Yes.
see in propaganda, they're using the tactics of Mao, the color revolution, all of this stuff. It's crazy what those people went through.
That was
And
one of the first things that red pilled me. It was a James Lindsay podcast, and it was about the communist playbook of how you would disrupt the family unit. And it said you get to the children and you sexualize the children early, because nothing is more disruptive than putting sexual ideas into a child's mind. And that's when the child starts to feel very disconnected to their parent. And if you disconnect the child from the parent, then they're more likely to join the revolution, separate from their family, be disgruntled, join the revolution, be a part of this. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like that makes
this is what they're
so much
doing.
sense. This is what they're doing. Like, why else would you talk about the things that they're talking about with children? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Oh man, I mean, I don't even know how to get into that. What actually, this is a perfect segue for a clip. So our friend Alex Zoltan, who's now working for Juno News or True North, he got a chance to ask a question at the post debate tonight, and I'm just searching for the clip. I got the clip here. So let me just share this one. You're gonna love this because it's just insane. It really is just insane. Let's pop this up here. So Stephen Taylor posting this one on X of Alex Zoltan asking the question to Mark Carney. Here we go.
Alex Zoltan with North. If you thought my friend's question was odd, you're going to love this one.
I'm glad you self-assessed that. Okay.
How many genders are there?
There, in terms of sex, there are two. Thank you.
My follow-up question then: do you believe that women, biological women, have the right to their own spaces, their own sports, their own change rooms, their own prisons, their own homeless shelters?
I think this is Canada, and that, as a general objective, yes. But we work in where we value all Canadians for who they are, and we'll continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Carla, first off, this is Canada. I mean, I love that one. This is a reminder of where we're at geographically. We're in Canada. The Prime Minister of Canada letting this reporter know that, and then just platitudes like emptiness. There's nothing there. This is from the party. This is the party of Bill C-16, which famously Jordan Peterson railed against because it's compelled speech. It's a free speech issue to be against that. Incidentally, Maxime Bernier voted for that one. I keep having to remind people from the PPC to tell me, duh, Max is the greatest and he's a champion for rights. He voted for compelled speech with that one. So Bill C-16 was the bill that introduced the idea that you can be dragged before a human rights tribunal for mistakenly calling somebody the pronouns that they prefer or they want to be spoken around them. It's absolutely antithetical to free speech, this idea of compelling people to say certain words, utter certain phonetic sounds aloud, or else it can't fly.
Well, what would you like to be called if you could force people to call you something, otherwise they would be arrested? What would you choose?
I would never force anybody to say anything. And this is the weird thing, like pronouns
Your
or
Majesty. I'll take it. Your
Your
Majesty.
Majesty is
Did did you get my pronouns wrong? You're in trouble. How dare you?
But so it's a control thing. It really
Yeah.
is. At the end of the day, it's not about like people actually being offended. The only offense that they're taking is that people aren't bowing to their whims, right? And that's what that is. You can't control how somebody speaks a language. I mean, the French try that. They do that all the time. But
Mm,
other than that, no, you can't. It defeats the purpose of any of this stuff.
yeah.
Like, well, and this is why I say that the purpose is to just control people, to put people
When
on
this
edge so that they're worried about being assaulted by somebody else using the legal system, and it's a demoralizing thing. I think that's the only purpose for it, is to demoralize people.
it's a power thing. You know, we saw that in COVID too. All of a sudden you had like the hostess at a restaurant with all this power. She could like deny you for not showing like your card. It's the same thing with the pronouns, and well-adjusted people aren't trying to grasp at power in that way. One of the first things that I did when this all started exploding is I had several trans people on my podcast. I had Buck Angel, I had Sarah Higgins, I had a few different individuals from like the Gays Against Groomers crew on the
Mhm.
podcast, all super based, really well adjusted individuals, common sense thinkers. And all of them were like, this is not how you behave in society. Like, you want equal behavior. This is not how you go about things. What they're doing in children is horrific. And Buck Angel really stands strong in just saying, I know I'm not a man. I have a psychological condition, and you know what? Transitioning saved my life as an adult, but I know I'm not actually a man. I take all these drugs and pharmaceuticals, and I wish I didn't have to come on here and like actually say it, but I have to say it for all the crazy people out there that think that they actually are something else. Like, you're not. And it's so refreshing to hear these individuals just talk about reality. I'm like, yeah, great. Now we can deal with reality. That's not a problem. The problem is when you're forcing people to deny reality. And before all this happened, like when you see those stickers like this is a safe space for people, I'm like, were there a bunch of trans people getting beaten up at Mark's Work Warehouse? I I don't think so.
No, it wasn't happening.
I don't think so. I don't doubt that they've had some uncomfortable experiences, just like any other human being has uncomfortable experiences. But um, yeah, I think Conservative Ant made a video about that. he
Oh,
made he was acting and he's like, "Oh, I don't like the looks of those guys." And he just starts sprinting to a patio that says like this is a safe space. And he runs away from these guys and he like jumps on the patio and he's like, "You can't get me here. This is my safe space."
just like for no reason. And how did they react to it?
They like literally stood like right outside the patio next to him like, "Oh, we can't get you. It's your safe space."
Oh, too good. So, I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd that it's come to this. Like,
Yeah.
I've always blamed sort of the celebration of mediocrity. I noticed that come along when I was a kid, and like I think I was like one of the last years to actually get awards for things. Like, we do track and field, and you win like first, second, third, that kind of thing. And then the participation trophies started come in. And it's yeah, I call it the celebration of mediocrity. I mean, you just like
Yeah.
there's no you can't reward people for having accomplishments, and you can't punish people for not doing well.
Mhm.
I mean, that's competition. That's how you train yourself to deal with the real world.
Mhm.
And studies have been performed on people that essentially don't don't get good parenting and don't get good life lessons, where they don't experience like what it's like to be told no on something. And toddlers, I mean, if anyone who's been around toddlers, they'll know the first times that a kid is told, no, you can't do that, they'll have a freak out. Like, they'll just have a freak out. That's what kids do until they know that that's not what they're to do, right? And it takes an adult, it takes people to tell them, no, sorry, ain't working out for you.
Yeah.
That's it. But when
Yeah.
people get older and they don't learn those lessons, psychologists are saying that the reaction is to become violent.
Yes. Yeah, that's so interesting. I had Natalie St. Hilaire on the podcast yesterday. You met her out in Victoria at that We Unify event, and we were talking about this concept. The conservatives are the adults. The conservatives believe in boundaries. And the ones that set boundaries, people always get really, really angry. The progressives are saying, well, we're going to have an open door justice system. We're going to let you do drugs. We're going to give you the drugs. If you commit a crime, probably just going to let you out. And the conservatives are like, no, you can't commit crimes. We're going to help you with your addiction. But like, it's not okay for you to break into a building, and you can't be stealing. And we actually don't think that these drugs are so good for you. So let's help you get it off of them. And that causes a lot of anger for people that are childish, that there's actually boundaries in life. And when you actually really love someone, like in this parenting example, good parents have boundaries. It's the crappy parents that let their kids smoke weed with them when they're just like little and like do whatever you want, stay up as late as you want. Good parents have boundaries.
Yeah, good parents. It's not the stepdad that's like, yeah, here, have a smoke, kid.
Yeah.
Or we're best friends. We hang out. We're like sisters.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just a weird sort of relationship.
It feels like liberals have no boundaries, none on any issue right now.
They're the parent that's just your buddy. The
Yeah.
enablers. It's unreal. But here comes the boundaries. Here comes the here comes the authoritarianism, because essentially at a certain point, then those people get into government, and then they can't handle dissent. They can't handle being told no, and the government can't handle being told no. When it came to the Freedom Convoy, they were pushing to get to keep us under lockdown when the rest of the world was moving on. I mean, like, America, for the most part, had 2 weeks. Some places stayed a little bit longer and did the mask thing for a bit. But places like Florida, Texas, they're just like, it's over. I ain't doing this no more. Sorry. And when you see that, and you're sitting in Canada under lockdown, this constant supervision and propaganda coming down on you, just do the thing, get the thing done, get it done. If you don't get it done, you're an irresponsible person. Rada, walk this way down hallways, aisles at stores, put on the mask, do all this thing, have your vaccine passport handy, all of this. And people were seeing it elsewhere waning off, fading off. And they're like, no, this is it. We're done with it. So a bunch of people get together and they say, forget this. We're going to go to Ottawa and tell them enough is enough. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people in charge, they're like, no, I can't be told no. You're not going to tell me no. I'm the representative. I'm the person in charge. So I'm going to use every power I've got.
Yeah. It seems like the only thing that the Liberals have boundaries on is dissent. That's it. Free speech, protesting against what the government does. Remember Trudeau? Oh, yeah, you can protest, just not against the government. Like, what?
What are you protesting? So, did you know in China they allow people to protest?
Really?
Yeah. And it's this really weird thing that they do in China where they allow people to protest, but they're not allowed to protest against the government. So they protest like other things. Like they'll protest against the Japanese. like as if like the Japanese have done anything since the World War II, but they'll just protest the Japanese for no reason. And it's weird because it's almost like a certain portion of the population just need to let out some steam. So the government's like, you can let out steam on this. It's like the official channels that you can let your steam, but you can't question the
Diversion.
government.
Yeah. Well, they're saying like, yeah, it's a Japanese fault. You can go get mad at them. Well, and we're seeing that like this 2-tier justice system. So the convoy got stamped on, and yet people being arrested for mischief. Meanwhile, you have the Palestine protesters burning Canadian flags and chanting death to Canada. No problem. You guys have fun. You have fun out there. That's okay.
It's happening everywhere, and I think there's like more provocations. I heard today that there's going to be there's been like these Muslims in the street doing like shutting down streets and doing prayers, and just to irritate people. Like it's one of those. It's a provocation.
It's a power move. Yeah.
It's a power
What are you
move.
gonna do? Yeah.
Like and you got to call it out when you call it out. Like I don't care if people are Muslim. You celebrate your religion however you want. It's your business. But when you start making power moves, like, okay, maybe we need to talk about this. You got to get yourself a permit. You don't get a permit, you go into the clink. You know what I mean? Like this is how it's going to work. And the latest provocation is apparently they're planning to block some square, I think in Toronto or something, on Easter. Of all times, right? Like one of the most sacred Christian holidays, they're gonna go like block some area with their Muslim prayer, and it's like,
well, there are obviously tons of peaceful Muslims. No one's arguing that, but I've seen interviews here in Canada of people saying, I've seen this interview multiple times now. We're taking over. You're not having kids. We're having kids. What are you going to do about it? Like, we're taking this over. And that's pretty terrifying. Like, that's an aggressive move.
yeah, that's alarming. Now, again, I don't care if people want to celebrate their religion however they want, but as soon as you start making provocative moves, but it calls into the question, like, where is the line then? So for free speech, and we know like what the government's trying to do with this craziness, arresting people who are just trying to stand up for their actual fundamental rights. But then there's provocative things. There's the Palestinian protests where they're going to like Jewish community centers and protesting a Jewish community. Like, what are you protesting if you're going there, right? If you're just going to a neighborhood where Jewish people live, or there's a Jewish school or something like that. Hold on. Like, I understand if you went to the Israeli embassy and you wanted to have a demonstration there, you're protesting a government, right? But this turns into this provocative thing, and it's like, well, where does free speech end? Because like I believe people should have the right to say what they want, even if it's offensive. Express themselves in the ways that they want, but where do you draw the line when it comes to this stuff?
Again, if it's against the government, it's not allowed, and if it's anything else, it seems like it is okay. Then they'll get on board with it, and that's what's not fair. Like if it's a rule, it's a rule. To watch innocent people have their bank accounts frozen, have them kicked off platforms, have them demonetized for doing less things than other people are doing, that's really scary to me, because I thought that was the whole principle of law. Like, we set a precedent, and we treat everybody the same, and this is the rule, and it applies to everybody. That's not what we're doing right now.
No, it's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I saw this tweet yesterday, and this one, again, it's alarming. This is where we're at in Canada. Chris Barber putting this out. Chris Barber, if you don't know who he is, he was the truck driver of Big Red. That was the number one truck going from the West Coast to Ottawa during the Freedom Convoys. The truck that Tamara Leach was in. as well. It's Chris Barber putting this out there saying bad news. As you know, they were found guilty of mischief in their trial after 3 years of a trial for their involvement in the Freedom Convoy for, singing "O Canada" in front of the National Parliament building. Crown prosecutor seeks 2 years in prison for Tamara Lich and Chris Barber for defending freedom. Wants to seize and auction his truck. Big Red. Red's family carried my son, dog, and 3.4 million kilometers. Led Freedom Convoy 2022, uniting us. Liberals aim to erase hope and convoy spirit to deter dissent. And this is obviously a picture of his truck. It's insane that, like, after all this time, they squashed the Freedom Convoy. Like, it was squashed. But they're going even further than just squashing it. They're going to the extent of saying, like, no, we need to squash even the spirit of people who might want to do something like that again. Make sure that we got to set an example that if you ever try this, we won't stop coming for you.
Yep. I'm sorry, they didn't commit a crime. I don't see anything about that was criminal. Oh,
well, neither did the cops. They couldn't get him for anything. That's the whole point. They had to declare a state of emergency in order to suspend civil liberties and then arrest them, and then trump up charges.
Especially when we don't deal with real criminals in Canada. You have rapists and murderers and people just walking around. Oh, but they honked. Oh my God. Like, have people lost their minds? Oh, sure. Okay, you don't agree with the Freedom Convoy. That's fine. They honked. That's it.
They honked. They were effective. Let's just be honest. They were very effective at what they were doing. They parked their trucks. They parked illegally. Yeah. So, like, if you want to say that they committed a crime, they did park illegally. So, like,
yeah. Yes. You know what's wild? I've traveled quite a bit in the last couple of years, and when I travel, like, Canadians or the liberal Canadians think that, like, oh, everyone wants to be us, and they have this really privileged view of themselves as Canadians. When I go travel, and I've been to quite a few countries the last couple of years, when I say I'm Canadian, I don't talk politics when I'm traveling. I'm just there to have fun. I'll just say I'm Canadian. The first thing that people say to me, and it's happened a bazillion times, is, oh my God, the truckers.
Really?
Or, I'm so sorry. I've had that happen so many times. Like, I'm so sorry. What's happening there? Like, other people see it. Mexico, El Salvador, America, Europe. Like, that's people say I'm sorry. That's their first reaction when I say I'm Canadian.
Well, I was just down in Texas and people were saying I'm sorry, but they were saying I'm sorry about what Trump's doing to y'all, right? And I love that word y'all, by the way. It just feels good when people say it. But they were mostly just saying, like, oh, sorry what Trump's doing to you, feel bad for you, kind of thing. But then everyone has this, like, vague idea of what's going on in Canada, but doesn't really know. Like, they're really just like, didn't you guys have like didn't COVID go pretty crazy for you guys or whatever? But they don't know the extent of it. And when you start explaining it, they're like, what? They did, and people just put up with that. Like,
yeah. Even something simple like the cost of living crisis, like, America has been complaining about, like, their cost of living crisis and how, like, expensive things are. And I'm like, oh, you guys think it's expensive there? Like, hold my beer. Like, the average price of a house in Canada is $700,000. And the high prices in America, like, the average price of a house they're looking at is like $300,000.
Yeah.
We're leaps and bounds in a worse place than America is.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely way crazier here. But why don't Canadians see it? I really struggle with this one because I see it. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, gotta fix this situation. Gotta.
It's a combination of the boiling frog. So it's just been happening slowly for so long. We're just like used to it. And then the media. The media is the worst thing to ever happen to Canadians. I hope like the CBC like burns to the ground, but it's not just the CBC, it's CBC and Globe and Mail and CTV and Global News. They're all paid off puppets. You know, if the news had done its job the whole time, we wouldn't be in this mess. And that's the state that we're in because people are low information people. They're busy. So they listen to the news. They think they're doing their due diligence because they're listening to multiple news media platforms. But they're not. They don't realize it's the same message across the board. You know, I don't watch a lot of legacy media. Usually if I travel, I'll like turn it on in my hotel room. I'm like, what are they saying? You would be a crazy person if you watched legacy media. Like I think of like my parents, it's always on in the background. If you watch legacy media, you only hear 4 stories on repeat. The earth is about to burn up. Everybody's racist. Everybody's trans. And oh, what's the last one? Probably Trump.
Yeah, Trump and his tariffs.
It's literally those things. Like it's a gender thing, it's a racism thing, it's the climate change thing. There are lots of other things happening in the world, but legacy media doesn't talk about like
Did you
anything else.
see? Did you see that they sent a CBC reporter to the White House press conference?
No.
It was so funny, and her only purpose was to drum up the tariff thing again.
No.
I gotta find the clip. I gotta show you the clip because it's just too funny. Because you're like, wait a second, like what is Carney dipping in the polls? You got to come in and give some aid to him. It's I gotta find it.
Trump
It's
gave
here
us a
somewhere.
90-day break on the tariffs. So what did Carney do? Retaliatory tariffs. Because I'm like, that's all they have.
I got it. I got it.
Okay, good.
I got the clip. Here it is. So this is a Canadian reporter. President Trump's tone on Canada has shifted. Basically, just can you please bring up the Canada 51st state thing again?
If I may. President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office, but they see him almost every day. But the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. As for autos,
if I may.
And so basically, what does CBC do right after that? They write an article saying Donald Trump's at it again. He's calling it the 51st state. It's like you did that. You did that, CBC. And how often do you see CBC at the White House press corps?
Never.
Like never. They did that just for this so that they can drum up a narrative. It's crazy. Like it's absolutely
I love her
nuts.
though. Is it Carolyn Levette?
Oh yeah,
I
Carolyn
love her.
Levine. Yeah, she's awesome.
She's super bass. She's just up there and she's just like, your shirt, it's ugly. Take it off. I'm not answering that kind of question. That's a pile of crap. Like
Yeah, she's a riot. She's a riot. But this is crazy. So it is all they have. They've run out of things because they've run out of Canadians to divide, right?
Mhm.
And that really is what it was about. It was divide up Canadians, get them pitted against each other. COVID was great for that. Get people angry, create divisions, create like groups. Oh, we found a new subgroup. People who don't want to get vaccinated. They're the new thing. Or maybe people who are just questioning it. You know, like vaccine curious, like whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then they've run out of that and they go right to let's go to the old Pierre Elliott Trudeau one. Let's make Canadians mad at Americans for no damn reason. because there's no reason to be mad at Americans. Americans
Mm.
hardly think of us. I mean, let's just be honest.
No, they're not. Like, we're so obsessed with what Trump is doing. They're literally not even thinking about us. And I've been listening to a lot of American news and their perspective on the tariffs as like a strategy for growing their economy. Like, it's actually reasonable. It does suck for us. I'm not saying
Oh,
I,
big
I
time.
I enjoy what's happening here, but it's not because he wants to take over Canada, because he could have done that a long time ago, because they are our army. They're the ones that are protecting the Arctic. Like, the things that they're saying are accurate. So they're not thinking about us. We're inflamed about America. And what's made me sick to my stomach this whole time is that we were right on the precipice where everyone in Canada kind of got that the Liberals were bad for Canada, that Trudeau was a disaster. We had Liberals ready to jump ship, and they swooped in Carney, and then the tariff thing happened. And it's like Men in Black came in and are just erased everyone's memory. And it's been my personal mission to get out on the internet nonstop making content saying, feel however you want to about Trump and the tariffs. If you're not more mad at Trudeau and the Liberals for putting us in this vulnerable and weak position, you have no idea what you're talking about. And what's
Mhm.
terrifying to me is that this is all just getting swept under the rug. And I need to remind people constantly 50% increase in crime, 23% increase in homelessness. Fifth leading cause of death is suicide in Canada, because we were already here. We were already in economic disparity. We were already in a recession. Trump didn't do that. And that's what the Liberals are doing. This is a wet dream for the Liberals right now. They're saying Trump's fault. And everyone is actually forgetting, because they're low information people. And this is terrifying to me. And why I've been on like a content binge. I'm like, no, 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 no. We were.
Well, there's the other side of it too. There's conservatives that are mad at Trump because they think that Trump was the one who's causing all of this sway over to the Liberals.
Yeah, I get
Like,
mad too. I'm like, stop
they're not.
talking about the 51st state. Stop it.
Yeah, but they're not. But that's not logical, because he was talking about that since December, and the conservatives were winning at that time, right? They were
It's
way
not
in the lead.
logical. Trump's not like, again, if he actually wanted land, and he actually wanted to conquer Canada and take us over, he could have done that in 24 hours.
Yeah.
We have almost no military. They are our military. That just could have been done. Then why on earth would he want 41 million mostly liberals? That's not a good strategy for him. Of course he doesn't want us. He's just a businessman. And what a lot of people don't know too, when Trudeau went to talk to Trump, he laid out all the cards. And Trudeau talked to Trump and said, "Oh, you can't do this because it like will be done. Like,
Yeah.
if you do this, we're absolutely screwed. You will destroy us." Like, it started off as a troll. And in fact, Justin Trudeau was the first one that started talking about this stuff. It started off as a troll. And if you've ever read like Trump's marketing books, that's always been his strategy. You say something crazy and just see what happens, see where like the balls land. And then you make a less crazy offer, and people usually take it because the first thing you said was crazy. So the whole 51st state thing was actually just a troll. It was a joke. It wasn't going anywhere. Trudeau went and completely blew it, told them how vulnerable we actually are. Trump went, "Oh, really?" Because at the end of the day, he's just a businessman. He's terrible to deal with in that way. He's going to take advantage of it. But Trump didn't ruin our economy. The Liberals did.
Yeah, the Liberals absolutely did. And it's just astonishing to me to look at the polls and see where people are sitting. Like right now, the only two provinces is Saskatchewan and Alberta that have majority conservative at the moment in the polling. And that's the only ones. It's a stark difference from only a few months ago. And you could chalk it up to being like, the polls are wrong. People are saying this or that. People are gullible. And
Yeah.
and then there's also this, right? I think because of the way a parliamentary system works, you have the fact that people have to vote for their local MP. And across Canada, there's a lot of people who have a Liberal local MP and they like that guy and they want to keep that guy. I mean, they were expressing this when Trudeau was in power. So Trudeau was in and MPs were going on CTV and they were saying, my constituents are contacting me and they're saying they like me, they want me to stay, but if Trudeau's the leader, they're not going to vote Liberal. They're going to vote Conservative. And all that pressure started waning. Trudeau stepped down and immediately everyone said, oh, well, I can go back to my Liberal MP that I like because it's not Trudeau. Because they don't care. They don't care who's the leader. They just care about their local community.
Even this whole idea of like Canada as a sovereign nation, it's not. We have to be so intertwined with another nation because we are not set up to be a self-sustaining nation. No country really is. But I think the biggest piece that Canadians really don't understand is, they're like, well, we don't want to be under the boot of America. I'm like, okay, well, would you rather be under the boot of China?
Yeah.
Because that's your other option. It's not an option to stand on your own. And why would we partner with the UK? They're not doing very good either. They're an ocean away. Of course, we're going to partner with the person that we share a border with, who has
And a culture with
10 times the size of the economy, army. I don't want to be connected to the UK right now. It's a disaster over there. Their immigration policies, their GDP is not doing well. They have the same Orwellian censorship bills over there. You know that they've arrested over 12,000 people now for social media posts.
12,000 people have been arrested for their
12,000
posts on Facebook and whatnot.
Yep, some of those are memes. I'm in big trouble. I post a lot of memes.
That's coming here. This is the crazy thing. And I mean, Carney's been making signals about this. Mark my words here on this one. This is on its way here. It's not far off. He's already signaling that he's going to go towards this. Here's the Pleb reporter saying Mark Carney is going to ban X in Canada if he wins. The Liberals are pure evil.
Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate.
The first time I heard this, I couldn't help but think of Hillary Clinton, misogynist, homophobic. Remember that clip? Yeah, this is him
in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. And today we're announcing our plan to fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure, and strong. A plan to make Canada secure, to make Canada strong.
Repeat yourself. That's how you do it. We're going to make Canada secure and strong. How are we going to do it? We're going to limit people's speech. We're going to take people that, say mean things on Twitter and we're going to put them in jail. We're put them under house arrest. We're going to get, so this is the craziest part. So you look at the letter of the law, Bill C-63, it's gone. Bill C-63 no longer exists, but Bill C-10 no longer existed after it was defeated. And then it came back, copy paste, Bill C-11, and then it passed. Like, this is the kind of thing you got to realize. They're zombies. Like, bureaucrats are zombies. They're just going to keep coming. I got a new bill for you. It's going to happen unless there's a fundamental change in government. And if we vote Carney in, and the Liberals, the same people that have been in government for a decade, get to stay in for a fourth term, that's it. They're going to pass that stuff. And it's going to come in copy and paste. The letter of the law says, it lays out, it's a criminal code amendment. So they're going to change the criminal code that if a judge thinks that you may in the future possibly say something that somebody else may find offensive, no clear definition of that, just arbitrarily decided by whatever justice at any
Plus
given time.
financial rewards for the person that snitches.
Yes. And they can place you under house arrest and even take away your property and make you wear an ankle monitor. And if you say something that's so egregious, which they clearly don't define, you could get up to life imprisonment.
Yep, $70,000 in fines, life imprisonment. I did a whole breakdown on the podcast yesterday. I mean, it's terrifying, and I people always want to call the right the far right, and you're a bunch of fascists. So, like, I looked into the historical records to see, well, who else has done this in the past? What kind of far right extremists have done this? This is where Hitler started. Independent newspapers were shut down and absorbed. Citizens were expected to report each other for anti-German thoughts or speech. The Gestapo monitored conversations, even in homes. The Soviet Union, if you criticized the regime, even in private, it was considered treason, and many were arrested for counter-revolutionary speech. Maoist China, the government launched massive campaigns to re-educate citizens. We saw that recently with Jordan Peterson. He had to go to re-education camp. And to this day,
They canceled it.
Good.
Well, no, it's just in limbo now. Did you hear what? So what happened was the Supreme Court of Canada said he had to go to this.
Yeah.
And they were going to do it. And he put out a warning. He said, for my would-be educator, just know this: I'm going to publicize everything that happens in that re-education. And everybody who is like, gung-ho, ready to do it, all backed out. And nobody would volunteer themselves to come forward and be his re-educator. And it's still kind of in limbo, where he still has to do this, but there's that re-education is just no longer available. It's such a weird scenario. It's such a weird situation.
In this woke world, we're obsessed with talking about privilege, right? I can think of nothing more privileged than people thinking, well, this is okay because we're one of the good countries. We're Canada. So, we're not like those other countries. We're not like China and Maoist China and Iran. We're Canada. So we can have the same things that Iran and China have, but we're better than them. I can think of nothing more privileged. This is your Western privilege. Also, your misunderstanding of history, because if you read history books, you would understand the dangers of this. We don't need to be protected from mean words on the internet. We actually need to be protected from our government, clearly.
I need people to do this, because this is just such a great exercise. Everyone has their image in their head of what Iran is like, but they don't realize what Iran used to be like before all of this authoritarianism hit Iran.
Yeah.
Just go to a Google search and type in Iran in 1970 and just look at the images of the people and what they were doing, and like chicks and cars, like young ladies.
I see
wearing all
so much
yeah,
color and fun also, but yeah, just normal people living.
it's vibrant, it's amazing. People at the beach wearing bikinis. None of this is allowed in Iran, in authoritarian Iran now, but they didn't get there because it's always been that way. And it's not like there's this steady evolution of countries becoming freer and freer and freer over time. Like, that can be upset, and you can go into the dark ages again.
Yep.
And this is what, like, we're trying to warn people out there. Listen, this could happen here. Like China, I know it was not a kingdom, but a empire at one point. They had emperors, and that was what it was, but it was largely peaceful. A lot of good stuff going on in China. And then Mao took over. Incidentally, after the nationalists were fighting off the Japanese. And the Maoists, they weren't very astute fighters. They waited until the nationalists were like largely beaten up and almost completely gone. And then they came out of the hills and took over. Like that's the history of it. They're big pussies. Let's just be honest. But I mean, yeah, the cuttlefish, I guess, is the other example. So, you know, they came out and they took charge, and it's been crap since. So like you can have great societies that just become these authoritarian nightmares. It happens. Venezuela, great place to live. It was fantastic. The socialists took over, nightmare, absolute nightmare. You know, the 1930s in Argentina, fantastic. Probably one of the most prosperous places on the planet. Socialists took over, slow burn until recent times, total disaster. Thankfully, they're turning their thing around. That's great. I love
That's what people don't realize about Carney. They're like, well, let's try. And I'm like, this is it. This election is it. If he gets in, people don't understand how fast things will crumple. They don't understand the vulnerable position that we're in right now. Because if he gets in and he opens up the floodgates to 100 million more immigrants that we don't have housing for, he does these Orwellian censorship bills. Alberta leaves, which I didn't used to think was a threat. I think it actually is a threat. If Alberta leaves, they fund the rest of Canada. So like, it's not going to be a slow burn and let's figure it out. Let's give Carney a try. It's going to be boom, Venezuela. Your dollar is monopoly money. The country is trashed. The end. I think it's going to happen fast. I don't like to fearmonger, but I think people really need to know how serious this is.
It really is serious. It really is serious. And here we are. We're at a situation now where the election is a week and a half out. And let's just be honest. Liberals they're very good politicians. They're very good at politics. They know how to play the game, and they've really played this one right in their favor. Really amazing work that they did. Because I mean, look at the polling just a couple of months ago, and it was crazy. And here we are now, where this is where we're at. Carla, this is amazing. We're going to go to the second part of the podcast now. We're going to get into questions. So anyone who's watching this after the fact, tune into the live streams. The live streams are where it's at in the evenings. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, get the notification to let you know when we do these live streams. But if you're enjoying this as a secondary, watch this as you wish content, this is where we're going to check out, but then we're going to go into the live stream where we're going to get into some question and answer. But before we do that, Carla, where can people find you?
Probably the best places on Instagram, Carla Joy Treadway. Carla's with a K. And I have a podcast called The Sovereign CEO, where we talk about all things business, politics, and living free.
Well, I'll make sure the links are all in the description down below. Everyone go check that out, and we'll see you in the next live stream. Tune in. All right.